Call meeting to order. Stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Horn. Here. Lehman. Absent and excused. Yeoman.
Here and excuse.
Hanson. And Underwood.
Here. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Well, you got any conflicts?
It's not on the, it's on the agenda after approval of the agenda.
Oh, it is not. Yeah,
Budget amendment.
I will make a
Alright.
motion to approve the
Second.
agenda.
We had a budget amendment.
We're gonna have a budget amendment.
Where is that?
Right here. Budget amendment number 2.
Oh, this is the budget amendment.
Oh, there's the word.
Right after appointments.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of a budget amendment under new business. Or
Maybe right before the discussion of the draft budget.
okay, before the discussion of the
A1.
A,
That leads into that.
gotcha, A1, and then have public hearing as A2.
Support that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, now is there conflict? See none. Public comment. Is there public that wishes to make a comment? All right, if we can, on just a minute, gonna have Kylie read the rules. You get up and get ready. Okay.
Any person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. The following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak once for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. A group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. The board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda.
Okay, so
My name is William Hayward. I live at 4304 Boardman Road, South Boardman, Michigan. I'm a crew member of your staff here at the Grand Traverse County Road Commission, known as number 711 or Big Gulp, as a lot of people like to call me. I want to thank you guys for appointment of Dan to manager, and he also when he appointed him as interim manager. The year I was here before he was appointed to that position, morale had started to decline from the point I hired in. It was okay, and it went downhill. Within a week or two of him being appointed interim, things started to look up. And in the time since mid-October, things have been just awesome here. And I want to thank you guys for appointing such a good manager to oversee us, and all of the staff here has just been on the up. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for working here.
yeah, appreciate all you do. Next.
I'm Al Snyder, 4300 Hampshire Road in that township. I'm here to talk about a plan and estimate that the road commission engineers had prepared and submitted to Acme Township for a special assessment district project. Back in 2020, there was an estimate, and that effort at the SAD failed. The estimate was $510,000 for 0.8 of a mile of road and paving. The estimate now, the latest estimate is $1.4 million. There are only 49 owners with frontage on Hampshire Drive, or 54 lots, 49 owners. That's a tremendous burden on some of the owners. I mean, I'm gonna pay it. At some time, that road has to be fixed. It's my neighborhood. I've lived there for 34 years. Now, I'm not gonna see the neighborhood deteriorate because of a road that can't be repaved because of the cost. But here's my hope. Part of the estimate includes removing and replacing the culvert where East Acme Creek crosses Hampshire Drive. That in itself, if you consider all of the other related costs, it's gonna be over $250,000. I think I'm right. There's three things that's wrong with that in the plans and estimates. Number one, it is contrary to law. In order to specially assess property, there has to be a special benefit. There is no special benefit for replacing that culvert. That is not a benefit to solely the residents with frontage on Hampshire Drive. It is a benefit that accrues to everyone downstream from that culvert, the entire Acme Creek watershed. The East Acme Creek crosses Bunker Hill Road, I think 3 times. It crosses Lautner Road. It joins West Acme Creek to form Acme Creek, which, if you've ever been over, there's a substantial body of water. Everyone along the way, including those who live on Grand Traverse Bay with frontage, since that tributary contributes much to the volume of that bay, benefits. So it's not a benefit unique to the residents of Hampshire Hills. You know, and for the sake of argument, if you want to argue that it particularly benefits, however you want to phrase it, the residents of Hampshire Drive, the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan has held that the amount of the assessment must be proportionate to the benefit to the property being assessed. Proportionate. And they described the benefit as an increase in property value. There's not going to be an increase in property value by a culvert that no one's going to know about. Finally, that culvert is in no need of replacement. That culvert will last 30, 40, 50 years more. Why then did the engineer place that replacement in the estimate? So that we would have to pay for it, not you. Doesn't come out of your budget, which it would. If a catastrophe happened and for some reason that culvert failed, you would pay to have it replaced. But if we replace it, that culvert's gonna last 100 years. We'll all be dead. You won't have to worry about it. Not coming out of your budget. They're not, the engineers, well, let me put it this way. The manager, at least one manager, a former manager, stated, and it's been restated, they're not going to replace the culverts that cross Bunker Hill Road because, and those culverts, along with the culvert that crosses Hampshire Drive, have been found by the Conservation Resource Alliance in 2020 to be good. The conditions are good. They don't have to be replaced. But listen to this. East Acme Creek crosses Lautner Road. And that culvert is not good. Now I want to look at this because I want to read you something.
So we're familiar with that, and we are running out of time. We've had an issue with that particular crossing. You're talking about the one where where the water comes over the road from time to time?
Yeah, well, let me just say what the manager said about that at the time in 2020. In 2020, when the engineers put in our estimate replacement of the culvert, the manager said on record to Interlochen Public Radio, when a culvert is functioning properly, which ours has for 34 years, never had a problem, we're not going to replace it. So why are they gonna replace the Hampshire Drive culvert? Because we're gonna pay for it, not you. That's not right. That won't fly. And I won't let it fly.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. If somebody here can answer it, is Acme Township one of the townships that participates in the 25% match with the SAD? Or is it not?
No, no,
It is not.
we're not getting anything.
Okay, I just wanted to
They're
make,
charging us for the project.
okay. So, so we can follow up with something. Yeah. Okay.
We have the engineering match built. That's
Right.
that's part of our policy, right?
No, I was just wondering about the township. I know that some
Oh, does
townships,
the township kick in?
some townships pay 25% so that their residents only have to pay, or up to, I should say that. There's
Yeah.
different numbers.
Acme doesn't have.
Acme does not
doesn't
have a
enough
cost
money.
share that the township, okay.
Has Andy, has the drain commissioner been out there anytime recently, do you know?
The only thing, I mean, and I may be getting ahead of this or, but the only thing I can think of is if there's a perception that we have to upgrade the culvert to current standards when doing a new, depending on the scope of work on the road, that may be the case. But I mean, if we don't, is there something perhaps we can have,
So I've met Mr. Schneider and talked to him several times on the phone.
Yeah.
We have looked into some other options, and actually Jim did get a price back this week of doing a slip lining, and we looked at it and it's actually approved to do a slip lining on that culvert. And I think that reduces it by about $100,000 to do that culvert. Now, past practice has been that we replace the culvert. The argument could be say that the reason the culvert is there is because of the road. It's an only entrance in, only entrance out. It's the reason the culvert's there in the first place, the road. I know when talking to engineering staff, the thought is what happens if there's a fire back there, a truck comes in, that collapses, and they said, you just repaved this 2 years ago, why didn't you do that culvert at that time? So the practice was to replace culverts when we redo the roads. So again, that's just past practice. That's something we look into for policy, but that's just currently what we've done.
So a couple things, Dan. We have garbage trucks that come through there every week, and I bet they weigh every bit as much as a fire truck. And I mean, and a lot of commercial vehicles do, delivery vehicles these days. And slip lining sounds great. Why do we have to do it at the same time we do the road? If the culvert's functioning properly, I mean, it carries about that much water. It's, I mean, you could drain it with, you could fill it up with your garden hose as much as coming through there, frankly. And it's a 42-inch culvert, so it's way adequately designed for the amount of water flow comes through.
and if I'm not mistaken, I mean, you mentioned the benefit is the people downstream. Actually, no, the benefit is the people upstream.
That's why I was,
Yeah.
so maybe we should reach out to the drain commissioner.
Yeah.
Conversation with the drain commissioner.
There might be, the county's looking at ways to use certain monies too. So, I mean, there might be something that the drain commissioner can bring before us.
Bottom line, I mean, the estimate with all that included has gotten so high, there's no way the residents are gonna be able to approve it. There's too many people that are on fixed incomes and, you
Understood.
know,
SADs are tough.
I mean,
That's
they've
tough
been all in
business.
the road, but.
Even I understand the escalating costs.
That's
of construction.
not tough. Depends on the township pass.
So they voted
Six
down, we don't get a
SADs,
culvert, we don't get a road, we get nothing.
All right.
I tried to get on the agenda.
Appreciate it. Keep moving and.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
We are gonna reach out there to the drain commissioner, some other things, see what more we can find out.
Appreciate it.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to action items. And we decided we're gonna do the budget amendment first, which should look like this.
Isn't there the introduction of new employees?
No, we moved it.
When did we do that? Oh, it's listed
I think number
under
7 action items.
New employees.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't have a number. Sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to jump over you.
Oh,
It doesn't have a number, so I just
Dan's the new
went.
employee.
Go, Dan.
Welcome.
Apologies.
So wanted to make a couple announcements tonight and introduce a few people. Obviously, I think we were in the manager role, there was a couple positions to backfill, so we did fill 2 of the back positions that I was covering. First one is fleet and facilities manager. Tim, if you want to go ahead and stand up and introduce them, this is Tim Koppel. Yep, appointed him as the fleet facilities manager. Tim was our assistant foreman in the shop, so he's was helping me run the shop here for quite some time. He does have past experience running other shops and crews, so he's
10 years.
doing a great job. So, very excited to have him as part of the.
Good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Then the other one is Larry. Went ahead and moved Larry into the superintendent role. Larry's got a great background. I'd love for him to explain it to you guys.
Yeah, so I worked at the city of Traverse City for 15 years, was in the engineering department for 8. Worked through Light and Power a little bit, worked in design, and I was a right-of-way permit guy. Did a lot of sewer, water, storm, pavement projects, pavement preservation. So I helped out a lot with that engineering department. Then moved on to the DPS department. We were working with snow plows and crews and safety, and so got a lot of experience in that realm, and I'm super excited to bring it here and start utilizing that part of my talents.
And with his new position, he gets all of our old Chromebooks.
We do have, we're gonna get some help battery as well.
I gotta take him up to the room and throw him.
So Larry, now that you're the superintendent, are you going to still be doing IT or what's the plan? for that?
IT, we're gonna contract out like we did in the past. We have cleaned on before, Bill Unger. He's been with us, well, I've been here over 9 years. He's been with us the entire time.
Okay,
And actually, when sitting down with Phil and looking at budget, using, that dollar amount of what we're paying Larry currently, and then not the fringe benefits, is actually quite a decent savings
Okay.
for us to go that direction. And
Great.
probably still take care of all of our IT needs this time.
okay.
Sounds
And
good.
Phil's back.
From the first year.
First year.
So, that's a great point. He's here last time. So. Yeah, no, very excited to have Phil back in the county position.
What's your title?
Finance manager.
Okay, so it's not accounting manager, right?
Right.
Okay,
It's fine.
because it's in one of the reports, it says Phil is officially accepting the accounting manager position. So I
Okay,
was
yeah, it should be.
wanting to make sure
Yeah,
that
that's right.
we didn't change your title. All right, okay.
With that being said, unfortunately, Heather Cave just put in her resignation. Very sad to see Heather go. She's done a great job for us, filled in, while Phil's gone, kept us going here. So, hope Heather all the best in their new adventures. Did put out a listing this week for an HR manager, and we've already gotten quite a few applicants. So we're gonna start doing some interviews here shortly for an HR manager. That's some updates for you on that shortly.
Thanks. Anything else? Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't have a number.
Oh,
next to it, so now we're gonna do the budget amendment.
Yeah, so as I was prepping the 24 amendment, or the 24 proposed budget, there was, a lot of moving parts, a lot of projects that didn't take place last year, so they went out and they awarded another contract to Elmer's, and I was looking at negative fund balance, and I'm like, holy smokes, what's going on here? So I did deeper dives, and talking with engineering, and I was able to identify those projects that were going to carry over to next year. So I moved them into the 24 proposed budget. So this basically pulls them out of the 23. So we're not showing we're overcommitted on our fund balance. And then I did take a look at the MTF revenues. They have trended a little bit higher. So I added another 450,000 to the revenues. And then the bond proceeds, we actually received $12,102,000. So I tweaked that number a little bit. And then there were some other capital outlay items that, we weren't spending in 23. There was some additional ones in 23. So I kind of netted all those out and got them in the appropriate years. So overall, we're showing an amended fund balance of just over $4 million. Typically, that's about my target because we have part of fund balance is unassigned fund balance. So all of your prepaid expenses and inventories, that's all sitting out there. We carry, up to about $2 million. So you can't spend that because the cash is already gone. And then on the other side is the revenues. We get our revenues 2 months behind from the state from when we have to record it in fund balance, and we run a little over $1 million a month. So it's kind of a good target that I always try to seek. That way, we always have adequate cash flow. We don't have any issues there. Take a real quick spin, see if there's anything else big to know. I didn't really, so I also presented a November financial statement that has all the detailed reports. And included in that, I showed the budget amendment, so you could see, exactly which line items I adjusted to get to that year end. There were a substantial amount of projects that weren't completed. Couple that I wanted to note was, actually we did a lot of projects this year. There was, I think, catching up from prior years, federal aid projects, those kind of all got caught up in this year. So we weren't having to spend that or carry that fund balance over. They did a lot of projects on the roads. Overall, year to date through November, we have spent, I think it's, I'll go to my construction page here. It was $16.3 million on construction projects. So it's a pretty unusual year. And it really spent down the fund balance. Because we were carrying
A lot of road.
$9, $10 million a year for a few years, and then things they kind of got caught up. So
Just hate seeing all those 105, 107, 102, everything's over 100% spent on the project we budgeted for. So
yeah,
takes a little away, chips away at the other stuff that we want to do.
yeah. But in there, so we still we're carrying a couple, and I haven't balanced it yet. The first of the year, I'll get in and so my plan for is to get through 23, all the reconciliations in January, have everything tied up, ready for the auditors, and then I'll know what was unspent in all of the other activities, and I'll be able to reestablish a fund balance for 24, and we'll have a budget amendment, and then we can go back through and like we have $1.3 million in just OHM. From the 4 contracts we issued for the corridor study, and we spent $2 million of that. So there's 1.3 that's showing as committed fund balance. And as we look at 24s and amended and where everything falls, we do that. One of the other things I'm kind of I kind of felt the hand to pump the brakes a little bit is we got this big facility, and I don't know what contingencies are being held in the contract. I know the facility I'm involved with across the street, there's a $4 million owner direct budget that's outside of the contractors of just various things that need to go when you build a new facility. And I don't know how inclusive our contract is, or.
We had this discussion when we were doing our construction meetings before.
300,000.
Yeah. And which isn't a lot. I mean, in the wrong circumstances. So you understand.
As I dive in and can get up to speed on some of these other things, then we'll be able to. But I think we made a really good start getting kind of 23 wrapped up, and then the next will be getting into the 24 discussion. And I got some other printouts, and that we can kind of.
All right. Let's clean up 2023, I guess.
It's a lot better than the last one he handed us.
Yeah, I mean, we have a 4-minute fund balance.
Is there a motion to accept the budget amendment?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So MTF is a significant source of revenue.
That's
right?
our primary.
Right. So because I don't have experience with this, my question is, I mean, we all noticed, just even driving to this meeting, it's like $2.80 for gas right now. Love it, by the way, not complaining. But I was wondering if gas continues to trend lower, which I certainly hope it does for all of us, how quickly does that turn around to translate to lower MTF revenues for an agency? Is that?
I think it would increase it because people drive more.
You think so? Okay.
Because ours is on a set per gallon.
Okay.
The sales tax portion of that does not go to the roads, that goes to the general fund.
Okay, so historically, when your gas prices have gone down because usage is up, you've seen your MTF trend upwards.
I think when prices spike,
That's when you
Yeah.
see.
Goes
okay.
down.
So
It's the exact opposite.
do okay then. I mean, because we're buying fuel too.
Yeah.
And we don't have any long-term contracts prepaid or anything, right? So,
We check rack pricing every time we.
Yeah.
This number.
With low prices, the school aid funds, that's getting hit.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember they did 2%.
Oh, I remember.
Sales
Yeah.
tax goes to school aid funds, so as the price goes down.
So
the
that's the
school aid
sales
funds-
tax on the gas at the pump.
Gas
versus
tax,
the-
gas
okay.
tax is a per gallon tax.
I got you. I feel like with an election year, the gas prices might continue to go down for a little bit,
For a
so,
little bit.
okay.
I'd make that motion. We approve the amendment number 2023 and budget amendment number 2.
I'll support.
Roll call, please.
Lehman, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. All right. So now, are we doing the discussion? Or are we gonna open up the hearing?
Yeah.
So we're gonna open the hearing first, okay. So.
Yeah.
So I call the Board of Road Commission, public hearing on budget 2024 is open. All in order, okay. All right, chair recognizes each person, okay. So then I'm gonna recognize Phil.
Well, I'm down under staff.
I think.
So who do we recognize?
Public
Oh,
hearing.
public presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, reading my notes. I've never done one of these before.
Public have any input?
Nope.
That's so exciting, though.
So now,
Chair, we.
No, he's gotta talk about it.
so we go to staff report topics. So now we go to Phil.
All right, so in front of you, I have a proposed budget for 2024. And I thought it would be nice to have a little context, so I added a few more years. Typically, you only show the prior completed year, your current year where you think you're gonna be, and then the following year, but I have the data available, so I wanted to go back to 2020. That way you can kind of see trends on when, like things that if they're consistent or trending up, or big spikes like federal aid that can go up and down based on when projects get completed. So for 2024, we're estimating total revenue of $24.1 million. Of that, 4.9 million is from the millage. 15.5 million is from the Michigan Transportation Fund. And we also have a state maintenance contract to do routes like 31 and 37 with MDOT, and that they have a budget of about $1.1 million to cover our direct expenses. And then contributions from local units is $1 million. On the projects tab, you'll see that I did have Blue Star Estates, and there was another SAB.
Jefferson, is it Jefferson?
I got the project list back here for you too, but just quickly, it was Holiday Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Is the other one. So I did that, and then also the brine. I put an amount in for brine based on basically the prior year. I understand that brine's probably going to go up, or we'll have to.
Brian's going up this year.
But the townships do participate in a lot, so we'll have to cover that bridge when we cross it, once we get updated numbers. I know Dan's pushing to get bids out sooner than later this year, so hopefully, it'd be good timing on getting good pricing and getting it in for a budget amendment. We have to shuffle the deck a little bit. On the expenditure side, total expenditures of $25.9 million. Of that, the majority is on the construction projects of 12.5 million. Routine maintenance, just down just a little bit from the prior year, of about 4.8 million. Winter maintenance, about $3.5 million. So that covers all the routine maintenance on our primary and local roads for snow removal. And then traffic services of 732,000, which is our signals and pavement markings and signs. department. Capital outlay, I do have another schedule. Dan had a list of equipment. I haven't gone through the list. I know we have a kind of a fixed asset plan. I haven't gotten time to dive in and look at replacements and everything else, so I just kind of plug those in there. But you know, depending on where we are with facilities, some things may need to shift around if we have to have, you know, funds directed more towards the facility than equipment. I think overall our equipment's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, we're finally over the hill, I believe, on our equipment. So we, you know, there's gonna be things here and there. There's something about to decide as equipment prices go up. You know, my deal and Sourcewell prices, unfortunately, weren't as good as they were at one point. So we were buying at such a low price before, and then we were, you know, at 7-year mark we could sell and try to almost break even. But we're gonna have to look at that because it's no longer gonna probably be able to do that because the prices are so much closer to retail now, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, the discussion years ago, and then you're talking like pickups and what have you.
Pickups and.
Yeah, we were literally buying them. We could hold them for 3 years and sell them for what we paid for them. And that was wonderful. Because, you know, we'd always have good running inventory that, you know, our crews would have good stuff. I mean, you know, it beat the days of signs and for floorboards and literally that was what we had.
Yeah.
So, so right now the resale though isn't keeping up with, or
Purchase costs now, so is.
purchase costs are just so elevated.
For my deal price, Ford and Dodge Ram are no longer participating. So you're down to GM products, and I want to say we were getting like a 35% before, and I don't want to quote the number right now, but it's almost close to single digits. It's a little bit better than what like a GM employee discount would be at the dealer.
So best cure for high prices is high prices. I mean, ultimately there'll be something that'll correct itself. So
Unfortunately, the legislature is wanting to step in.
just can't help themselves.
There's a rebate project that they're wanting to throw in because they think that if they interfere with the market, that all of a sudden magically everything's gonna be great for all of us again, but that's going, I mean, obviously the legislature is in its session, but I'm sure you're aware of what I'm talking about. It was a Whitmark proposal that came out this last week. And it's some way to manipulate the system on new purchases. But ultimately what that's gonna translate into for us is even worse my deal prices and stuff, at least for the next calendar year. I assume whatever was proposed will be passed. I didn't read all the details of it yet, but.
Depends on the election outcome for the special election.
That's a good point. Yeah, the special elections lock us into potentially, could we have a tied house? Is that what it is? Okay.
A little stalemate wouldn't hurt anybody. You know?
Okay, well then, yeah, maybe it's not as bleak as I thought. Didn't love the headline or the article I read. but-
No.
Okay.
Do you want to go through the rest of this and close the public hearing, Joe? And
Is there any more? Wow.
Then we'll get into the discussion. I'll get.
So then, do we have any written?
We did not have any.
Is there any public questions or comments? So now I can close this. I'm gonna close the hearing.
Plan B. So, I did present, all the detailed, I guess the summary, so you can see, by year how things are trending. That I wanted to maybe call out the projects. They did have, estimated costs on the projects. Some of these are known costs because they were bid and carried over from 2023, contracts. So I was able to get those in there.
That's nice.
Phil, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
For the 2024 proposed budget under just construction projects, you have it at about 12.5 million, right? And then for previous year with the amended budget, you talked about like 20.5 million, but then you were saying something, but when I'm looking at this, so help me explain the comparison, because when I'm looking at the budget amendment number 2 for 2023, it talks about 2023 year-to-date actual was 16.3 million, and then the amended budget was 23. The budget amendment number 1 was 23.25 million, and then we amended it today, and the final, I guess, final value is 20.5. Help me first understand, if year-to-date is 16 point,
Of month, that was actual spend.
yes, why, how come the final amended budget for
It's so much
2023?
higher.
Yeah, it's
There's
it's
unspent.
20 million, like 4 million
Yeah,
more.
well, like I said, 1.3 million is in that OHM on the Pell study.
Okay,
That's in activity 451, which is, shows that right at the top, the construction capacity improvement. That's where we're reporting that. We had, I know, $1 million of partnership projects. A couple of years ago, we set up a cost sharing plan and we were, holding some fund balance back. Not all of that money has been spent, only a handful of projects, have tapped into that. I have to do a little reconciliation come the new year, but there's fund balance is holding $1 million back on that. We have some signal projects. I think they're waiting on poles, so those aren't completed yet. So I know there's monies to be spent on those projects that are kind of earmarked in here. So
okay.
um,
So with that explanation, when we are looking at your proposed budget for 12.5, help me understand how you came to that amount, because does that take into account the increase in inflation and prices? Because, okay, so that's what the explanation.
So
Okay.
if you go, if you turn down to just after this schedule of expenditures, I have the projects list, yes. So at the very top, I just, when I do the labor budget and that, I know the engineers are gonna charge direct to projects. They're either charging direct to projects or they're charging the kind of their overhead, which gets re-spread back. So I just kind of put a little placeholder just to kind of keep that overhead rate down a little bit. In the end, it all gets spread back anyway. So I just kind of showed some labor and equipment charges that are up here that aren't specific to a job, just to kind of cover the activity amounts. General fund projects, I'm showing like we have $4.9 million of millage revenue, and they added a bunch of chip seal projects to the contract in 24, along with the carryovers. And then they also have a paving project on West and South Long Lake intersection of about $1.4 million. So I'm sure, last year we spent, I think it was $7 million on millage projects. And a lot of that was carryover because, for the prior year it didn't get done. So they got caught up this year, and we're showing that we're spending everything in 24 for, and then some on what we collect.
So all these projects that are listed under general fund projects on this page, are they all projects for which we already have some certain amount, we already have bid them out and we know what these projects are going to cost?
All of the chip seals, I believe they're gonna hold their costs.
Okay,
Because there was a contract change form amendment to add the 24 projects with the 23s that didn't get done, and those all get done. Hopefully, they get the materials and everything in 24.
so
Then they'll be going out to bid, I believe, for the West and South Long Lake intersection.
That one still has.
So that's an estimate. That's an engineer
Right.
estimate that I kind of put in there.
Yeah.
To hold that back. The next page,
So if we do all this, we've spent $2 million more than.
yeah, I mean, that's basically, I got another report that'll show you like.
okay,
Federal aid, I'm only aware of the Diamond Park Bridge and then the roundabout on Garfield at Potter. And I identified the funding sources on those, federal, state, I think it's 95% on the bridge, and then the flat $600,000 safety grant towards Garfield. And something you probably haven't seen before is the cost participation. I've always had those, I just never really presented it because I always want to track, what's coming out of our fund balance and our millage and versus what's revenue and shared with by others. And so we kind of see what our stake is on some of these partnership projects.
What about the federal project on 3 Mile that was delayed because of the Grandview project? there was money allocated
I
from the
think that might be
fence.
25.
Right, do we have to hold that money in our 24 budget
No.
or no? You
No.
don't, okay,
We only recognize that when we spend the funds.
Okay.
So it's the matching principle.
I see, okay. But we know we get it,
Yeah.
like it's
We
locked
got
in for
approval.
25,
They understood, since it was a state project.
okay.
And I can maybe make some notes, you know, because we
Yeah.
had a job number set up for it already. I could just, you know, I didn't get all the information that I typically would like, just because my time is super limited. But I'd like to, you know, have the lengths of the roads, you know, what are we doing? So that way I can tally up, you know, lane miles and all that
Okay.
stuff. I don't have access to,
You're running two multi-million-dollar agencies. Slacker. I don't get it.
And then for the partnership projects, I set the 500,000 aside. And I'll go back through and balance that. You can start meeting with the townships and start getting some plans and, you know, what their immediate needs are and, you know, try to get some participation on some projects. And then the two SAEs I mentioned earlier. And then they also had a list of some signal work. So a couple of signal replacements, Hammond and Garfield, North Long Lake and Cedar Run. Those are pretty big ticket items. That's just kind of a rough estimate. Those still have to go out to bid and everything else. Yes, sir.
Are all the other projects listed under other projects, are they all signal work?
I think so. I think the Cedar Run at Harris, I think those are flashers, like flasher upgrades. You know, or actually those were heavy, like a little heavier maintenance type of work. And then the ones at the bottom, I think those are like flashers.
Where do projects, for example, RSAs, where do they fit in the budget? Do we, like road safety audits, where in the budget are they accounted?
So ones that I'm aware of, they're kind of 80% paid by MDOT and they handle it. And then we get an invoice for our 20% share. I think there was one last year I remember seeing, because I think it's a $20,000 project. So we recognize 16,000 revenue and then our share was like 4,000. I don't know if there's, you know, there could be some of those things that pop up next year and we'll cross those, you know, add those in a budget amendment.
And related to construction, so we have talked about the maintenance projects, which are all covered by the millage funds, right? We have talked about the federal aid projects, we have talked about, and then the other projects, most of them are signal projects. I guess this is a question for our road manager as well. Are there any new construction projects that are planned for 2024, and where are they listed? Or are we not planning any new construction for the 2024 year?
I think you got a list of the projects, don't you, Phil?
Yeah, I kind of went through, so Wendy had shared with me, you know, the projects that they went through, and then with financial constraints, he had some crossed off. So I only picked up the ones that were not crossed off on the list, and it's
Right.
basically all the chip seals. And then the one that would be bid out, I believe, is West and South Long Lake.
So, okay, so the west
And
is,
then also we have Holiday Woods and Blue Star, and I think Blue Star was already bid out.
right, that's the
I'm not-
SAD, yeah.
I'm not sure where we're at on Holiday Woods.
Yeah, I guess, so west and south Long Lake intersection one, I thought that was like that was not a maintenance type project, was it?
I think
Yeah,
it's
we're cutting down the vertical crest, we are expanding, so I want to know why, so why is it listed under the millage funds? Because I didn't think that.
I think in the past they've done those type of projects with millage funds.
Local crews.
Yeah, I don't think they were like doing projects that added turn lanes and increasing capacity, but I don't know the details on that one, but typically like some of the crush and shapes were going through millage.
Okay.
It wasn't just simply chip seals or overlays.
Okay, and the reason I bring this up, and Phil, this was before you came on board, but we have had ongoing discussions for months now about doing something at the Straight Road and North Long Lake intersection. We have applied for grants. Last I heard, we have not heard anything. I'm trying to figure out, and then we have talked about the capacity corridor studies. This is, I mean, I know we can do budget amendments later on. I'm just trying to figure out in the planning phase, when this budget document was being put together, was there any discussion about any of the new projects that we have been talking about for the last 2-3 months? Or are we simply now doing chip and seal type projects and signals?
It's pretty much asset management plan type of projects. Is what it
Yeah,
looks like to me.
right. I'd like to see some, I mean, we are spending all this time on having these discussions. I think the public and other people who have participated in that would expect and like to see whether we are actually taking some concrete action on these, or we're just holding session after session, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I've actually worked with Wayne, and we've identified a couple of roads that we'd actually like to try to tackle in 2024, and we're looking for some funding sources right now for those. And actually, I think we have a source for that funding, but it'll be outside the budget right now.
Okay,
So hopefully, once I can get these approved, they're starting to do the project, so I actually get a dollar amount, and then we can go ask for this funding. And I can come back to the board and say that we found funding for these projects, and actually, they're gonna be road projects.
okay, and I want to bring this up at this stage, because previously when I brought these concerns up, I was told, well, we didn't budget for it. So here we are, and I'm looking at the budget document, and I'm not seeing any of those projects being here. And I don't want to run into the same position that I did this year, where the response was, well, we don't have the money because we didn't budget for it. So now we have it on the record that we are going to work on some of those projects and try to find funding sources. And not,
We have one identified, so.
okay,
I think our state legislators need to, help out on that, because when I was downstate, we had, some pretty active people, and they were able to get millions of dollars, earmarked for, road projects.
yeah,
and stuff.
right, exactly.
A lot of these big
Yeah.
dollar special things, it's not MTF funding that
Right.
can handle that.
Yep. Absolutely,
I mean, you could, but everything else is gonna suffer.
sure.
So that's the construction projects I got, and then I also had wanted to restate the kind of the capital outlay. And I even noted the meetings that you guys approved some of these, and it's been a while with the delays and getting equipment, but we still need 3 trucks outfitted at Truck and Trailer, and then there are 4 cabin chassis and outfittings. Hopefully they'll be done by the end of 2024. The signal bucket truck, that's one that we had in there for ever since Haley came on board with us. I think that's probably be a pretty important one to try to get. She's getting her master electrician, and it'd be nice to get her the right equipment, and maybe that will kind of scale down some of the Winded Miller, contractor costs.
That'd be a combination.
And it can, yeah.
Because a sign and bucket truck would replace the existing sign truck, but it'd make it the truck that's like a do both activities. Both of them, I don't think have quite enough utilization to justify the cost of that.
Do we have a payback time on that? I mean, is there an estimated time or, return on cost in terms of compared to the?
I just kept that in because it was in.
It's been, so the current truck, I think it's like a 2001 for a sign truck, so it's well past due for replacement. When we go to replace that truck, we'll upfit it so they can do buckets and sign work.
So the
signal
separate
and
sign
sign work.
truck in here is not a separate item for this budget then?
So there's 2, we currently have 2 trucks that are bucket trucks. So I
2
just wanna-
sign trucks.
We have 1 sign truck and then another bucket truck. So I just want to make sure we understand that we're not looking for a 3rd truck.
The signal bucket truck says carry over from prior years. What does that mean?
That we've had that.
So
In the 23 budget, we've had it. I think
Doesn't
since
even
21.
yeah.
But we just never bought it. Never
And we
bought
were
it.
told that we were gonna get the cities, and that was sold a long time ago.
I've tried to go out to bid and purchase a truck for the last couple of years. And I haven't felt comfortable coming to the board because they'll not hold pricing on a truck past 30 days. And they're telling me that they're over 500 days out to get the boom portion of the truck. So they're pretty much writing a blank check and you don't know what's gonna come in 500 days.
Okay, so they're not committed to holding the
They'll
price.
not commit past 30 days, and they'll not commit to delivering a truck before 500 days.
That, so wait, they won't commit to holding the price for past 30 days, but they can deliver the boom for 500 days. So how does that that work?
That's why I'm not comfortable coming to the board with what I'm getting for pricing on this truck. So.
Okay.
Shoot to the head. You know?
We have started looking at used vehicles, but since everybody else is in the same situation,
Yeah.
they're holding on to their used trucks and refurbing them, and what they are selling is worse than what we currently have. Or it just doesn't really make sense.
One we have.
Just last question going back on that. The straight long, you mentioned straight long Lake Road. I mean, is that's gonna probably be a 2025 major budget item, you think, or is there? I know we're gonna have some of it coming up this year. We have to.
Yeah.
Preparation.
So we did apply for that SAFE grant there to try to get that, dogbone or roundabout I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we did not get that. We are reapplying for it again this year in hopes that we can get that.
But in the meantime, we are taking steps.
We're taking steps. I was gonna talk a little bit about that in managers, but we have placed an offer. It was accepted on the parcel there that we talked about last time. All documentation is being reviewed by the current owner. They want to have their lawyer go through it. So once they sign, we should be all set.
All right, but we'll talk about it. Okay.
If a group of residents were to get together and move fairly rapidly and collect their signatures on a petition and want to move forward with an SAD in 24, let's just pretend it went well and smooth. Where in the budget is money set aside for potential road commission portions of the?
So our portion is
The engineering,
the engineering, which is already budgeted. So.
But how would you know? I mean.
So it's it would be a matter of engineering scheduling time to devote to designing and overseeing
Okay.
that.
So that's not something, we wouldn't make an error now that could prevent a group that moved rapidly and got all their ducks in a row.
So if they got their ducks in a row real quick and got a bid out and awarded it, we would have revenue source to offset that
Okay.
exact expenditure.
And then my last question is Frankie Road.
Yeah, we talked about that.
That's one of the roads that I've identified that I really want to do something with in 2024. I already have engineering going out and surveying it. We're getting it booked ready.
And now that the school's there, we don't, and the construction's all.
The Meyer
You know,
construction is over.
So engineering, I've told them, I kind of shifted their priorities and they are looking at it, but again, that's another one we need to find funding for, and I think we may have identified a funding source for that.
Well, and that was what I was getting to earlier, because we have, I just used as an example, the straight road Long Lake Road intersection, because we have talked about it quite a bit here. But we have talked about Frankie Road, we have talked about Town Line Road. You know, those are some of the things that I'm not seeing those.
You're hitting the two roads that you know, we didn't have the money to do.
Might as well throw Goodman in there.
Are you ready to rip that thing? Yeah. Looking at opening up 4 Mile again and having that go straight through the Potter Road, and that'll also kind of help.
Most one act Bates.
Bates Road. Doing some work out there.
Well, I do have one last road to add to that. I say it every single board meeting, so I'm just gonna say Bluff Road is really important to me for us to, you know, identify some possibilities there.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for it to be in the budget, but
No,
I
that's-
want to make sure that that's always on the top of people's minds, because
That's something I'm definitely interested in finding some sort of funding. I don't think people think we've walked away from that project. We haven't. We're looking for funding, and at some point in time, I believe we're gonna, you know, hopefully find something, but in the future.
Yeah.
and
I mean, but that type of project is 100% what Phil was referring to. That's our state representative's job. Like, that's the kind of job with the coastal zone management and the soil, I mean, with all of the issues with the Great Lakes and whatever, East Grand Traverse Bay, I know, but that's a Great Lakes. Like, that's just screaming for a fix from Lansing, and there's no way we could take that money. We have a state representative that represents Peninsula Township, and I would love to see some interest taken in this project, because we're never gonna find that money locally. It's not possible. But that's, and it's significant to our shoreline and our watershed as well, so, you know.
I mean, I would go so far as to make a motion that we pursue legal action or at least investigation on liability by the utility companies who planted their stuff at the beginning of our problems on Bluff Road. I mean, the residents feel that there's some culpability there, and if there is, if that degraded the hydrologic structure of the ground, I mean, then we need to look at it in that way. I think it's worth taking a look and saying, you know, what caused the problem?
You want us to look into that?
I want us to look at most.
The way that I look at that is, like, that's something after we fix it that we can look at reimbursement, but I don't think.
No. It's actually what we do beforehand so that we can actually find a funding source to fix it, because honestly, we don't have the support in Lansing right now. We just don't. Okay, so you could be sitting here for another couple of years until we have the right people in place to actually then get us some money from Lansing. But we don't have the support in Lansing right now. And without the support in Lansing, we're not going to be doing anything there.
So your motion then is for the road commission to explore.
Yes, my motion is
possibility of litigation against the.
Can I offer a friendly change to that? I really want to have our Bluff Road Committee meet. Dan and I have talked about that. And have that be discussed amongst all of the players in that game, because
then before I make that,
I'm never that comfortable with litigation, so.
Well, but the fact is, it's a significant amount of money. There was something that preceded the erosion of the bluff that had stood for 60 years. Something happened, and why all of a sudden, and coincidentally, why, you know, there was activity where the water meets the underside of the road. You know, so.
I mean, when you say investigation, I'm assuming you mean hiring experts, consultants to pay them and go out there and prepare a nice glossy report for us and spend about $10,000-$20,000 at least.
We should have done that in the beginning.
I understand that, but I mean, that's fine. You can make the motion. I can't support that kind of a motion.
I would like to see our committee meet and talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't discount what you're saying, that there is cause and effect, but ultimately, none of us want to sit through lawsuits. I mean, I just think everybody wants to get it done. So let's look at what the options are. If we have to go to Lansing and knock on some doors, I'll go knock on some doors in the House building. Like, I'm good with that. Like, we could at least talk about taking some action to let people know that it matters to us.
Well,
how about think about making it so that he's concerned we're gonna spend money and not do anything.
Sure.
Maybe we just explore and have him report back.
Okay.
So I'll support that. The road commission will take a look and see what our options are.
And that's something now that, you know, have Larry and Tim on board and backfilling my positions, that hopefully I have some time here as we get them trained.
So we're not committed to anything. We're just saying that we are gonna actually take a look at the legitimacy of this without going to legal.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with like making a motion that has litigation or looking into litigation. And
I'm not saying.
No, he's talking about investigation.
I'm just talking about investing. Frankly, if, you know, it's not unheard of for somebody who is in a management position to approach the utilities themselves and say, look, this is what we think could possibly have happened. You know, help us out here. And they're not necessarily just trying to watch their bottom line and, you know, you gotta get rid of these guys fast. They may actually want to be engaged now versus, you know, facing an angry mob of torch-bearing peasants later on. You know, I mean, if something were to be found out that they are in fact the cause of our issues.
And it's a legitimate point. I think what's more needed right now is for the Bluff Road Committee, which is comprised of the commissioners.
I agree with that.
With
because
residents.
Would you be willing to withdraw it? And after they meet, well,
yeah, that's fine.
And they can talk about, the reason is that throughout this process, at least since I've been on the board, I only heard of one option that would cost $5 million. That was the only option that I heard. And I think it's about time that the committee, along with the engineer and the manager, begin those, restart those meetings and start exploring at some other options, bearing in mind that as long as those options are viable options and are not going to result in the road collapsing in next time. That's an important part too, to see whether they're actually viable and valid alternate options.
Absolutely. And bear in mind, from my perspective, we're responsible for the road. Okay, that bluff needs to be fixed.
Needs to be stabilized.
It needs to be stabilized, exactly. Better use. And once that bluff is stabilized, we can then fix the road.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Two issues.
There really is two separate issues.
We will fix the road.
Yeah.
But the bluff's got it.
Right, but and with respect to the stabilization of the bluff, we have only heard of one way of doing it, which is the most expensive way, which is the $5 million. I am more interested in the committee and our engineers revisiting that issue and finding out cheaper alternate options. Are there other options to stabilize that bluff without it costing $5 million? We don't know that because, I haven't heard it being presented at this board meeting. I know there were presentations made by the HOA representative who came here, but we relied upon an engineer and a road manager at that time, and we were told, no, none of this is gonna work. So I think with the new road manager, with the new members on the committee, we can probably start revisiting that issue. And I'm fine with looking into the impacts of what the utility work did on the stabilization. I'm just not in favor of spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to get a nice report saying this is what happened and then what.
What about Andy Smith's?
Andy's been involved and he looked at doing an actual drainage district in that area.
Well, I was thinking about Andy Smith's, not Andy Smith's drain commissioner.
Oh,
But Andy Smith's a geological engineer.
So Andy Smith was our engineer of review when I was on the Brownfield Authority. And then Andy became a drain commissioner and served on the Parks Board with me. Well, one of the things Andy would always bring to me is those coastal zone management grants, which we utilized in Brownfield to finish the Boardman Lake Loop. But Andy's really good at that. We were looking at it for Medalli Park. I probably don't need to go into detail as to why that needs a little shoreline stabilization at Power Island. Andy might just know off the top of his head some ideas. There's, I just looked up, the NOFA is out right now. There's a bunch of them for 2024 for CZMs. So there's potential there where we could possibly utilize, I like what Jason's saying, you're separating those two ideas. We have potential funding, like CZM funding for the bluff itself. And then, we're not gonna fix a road on a bluff that's gonna collapse out from under it. So obviously the bluff goes first. And the question is that really the road commission's purview? I don't know whether it is, but if I lived on Bluff Road, I wouldn't probably care. I would just say, could somebody organize helping it? And so there are, there's funding opportunities out right now. And Andy is a real expert at that.
Yeah, so who qualifies for him? Question.
Andy's a real expert at that, and that could be helpful. I'm just saying, these are the things that our committee could talk about, but it is, you're right, it really is, it is really two different things. So that's Alan and I, but of course, we have our partners at Township, at the Township as well, and our.
I don't think you need a motion.
No, he withdrew, so.
But that's something I didn't want to have us talk about our budget without mentioning out loud.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for the.
That's all right.
Detour.
So, I did
one
want to
myself, I'm gonna go offline in a minute.
a labor summary. We looking to increase the field up to 32 positions, and then doing so, we would take off one of the seasonals that we typically have in the wintertime. And then in the shop, we used to have 5 budgeted positions in the shop. Last year. For some reason, I think it was down to 4. So we were putting that back up. So even with the new contract raises, Yeah, the administrative raises, all the new benefit rates, there's a lot of moving parts in this. Some changes in the estimated overtime. We're looking at an increase from the original budget in 23 of $5.9 million to just over about $6.1 million for 2024.
Then I did want to bring, I know I mentioned that LOU in our previous meetings. I did not bring this to this one. Working with Phil, still wanted to see where we come out at the end of the year, balance everything else. It's something I will reapproach at the January meeting. I want to discuss that LOU that time. I do want to remind everybody that, we did not replace that director of operations position, which was $100,000 a year.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I had to pump the brakes a little bit. I just want to get out
No,
this.
and that's your job. I mean, and appreciate that, so.
So I also, I don't know, I did some graphs and some summary stuff. So I just went and pulled the rolling 12 MTF report. So I plugged in our allocation factors. I could see since the last time I did this report, they did increase the population for the county in the MTF formula. Went from like about 70,000 to 78,010, I believe. So we get, I think, where was it? $22.23 per person. That we have, they're still going through and defining the urbanized limits. So we'll get a little increase in mileage of the new area that the mileage falls in. Currently, we get $1.6 million a year, so I don't expect that to go up substantially. I don't think they're doubling the size of the urban area, so. So that probably will go up, but I just based our budget on that. In running through the MTF formula, doesn't include snow payments, engineering. Snow payments, we get about 330,000 a year. Engineer, we get 10,000 for having engineer on staff. And then the mileage transfer, which we do get some money for M137.
Are they still paying? Are they not to pay?
And the mileage?
On the mileage, on the turnback.
I haven't heard any of that.
Okay. This is great stuff. I mean, and this
Well,
stuff's on the
it
web,
paints a
right? It's on
picture,
our website.
When people ask, why is there no local money?
Yeah.
This is our funding. This is how the state funds primary and local roads. So we get
This is
about
a great
$10.1
explanation
million
of Act
for
51
primary roads, and then 4.7 million for twice as many local roads that we have in our system as primaries.
So Phil, about 12 months ago, CRA told us that the state was talking about not honoring the contracts for take back roads. So keep an eye
So
on
they're
it.
gonna take them back over.
They're gonna.
I don't know.
It was somebody's random decision.
Yeah, I don't know if they moved forward or not, but they announced that.
At least some of them
got
right
very
away.
excited.
And then behind it, I just put the MTF formula with our factors, and this is just the most recent rolling 12 months. They publish every month. I also have a few other pages, couple of historical graphs showing revenues and expenditures. So you can kind of see the bars if they get bigger or narrower. Our primary funding sources, MTF and millage, and obviously the bond financing.
That was the 23.
That was the big bump on the revenues last year.
And you think it would jump more, but we got rid of the South Airport bond.
Yeah, so
I mean, that would kind of gave room to us to work on when we started.
So our debt service on that, I think, is about 925,000 for 20 years. So it's a lot of interest.
It is.
It's a big commitment. And then I also have a couple of summary sheets, one for the 23 budget amendment 2, and then I'll just look at the 24 proposed budget. But this basically looks at our expenditures without any allocations, because we have depreciation allocations, going to different activities. We have fringe, overhead. There's a lot of moving parts when you look at the other financials. This kind of strips that away, and by funding source, we can see, what is it costing us using MTF versus other sources of funding. So on construction projects, for instance, we have about $11.5 million of cost there. Of that, 4.6 is coming out of MTF. 1.1 million is federal sources on the bridge. Let's see the township participation in the local, and then the 4.9 for the millage. So that's, what we're contributing towards construction projects, stuff that's bid out. It's not done by our crews routine. So that represents 27% of our MTF budget right there. 9% of our MTF budget is performing routine maintenance. That's your pothole patching and surface maintenance and graveling. Those type of activities. Winter maintenance is $1.2 million, 7% of our budget. Traffic services, 3% of our budget. Admin is 6% of our budget. The state has a cap of 10%. It can't be higher than 10% in the Act 51. So we're far under that threshold. Equipment, this would be the equipment operating costs, the depreciation would not include depreciation. So this is fuel and repairs and parts and things like that. That's $1.3 million. Fringe benefits, that's the combination of, people taking time off that gets charged to this activity, and then also the health insurance and retirement plans and everything else. That's 12% of our MTF budget. Overhead, this would be stuff that's facility costs, salt storage, time that crews are not charging directly to the roads. We'll go to overhead, and that's 5% of our budget. And then road equipment, it's kind of a heavy year. It's 16%. When I was down in Monroe, we set a target of 10% of MTF to kind of keep it in hand.
But that includes our buy ahead, right?
Yeah.
This
Truck buy aheads.
No, this is the carryover of the 3, and then the 4 that we're planning for this year.
Okay.
So it includes 3.
Yeah.
The 9 that we bought ahead is not in this at all. That's going to be in next year's budget.
Next year, 2025.
That's why I noted it on the my schedule. That way we can always kind of see that it's hanging out there.
Okay.
Doesn't get forgotten.
And the
No
only
damn
reason we are doing that, the increased purchases is primarily because the emissions issue. That is why it spurred these purchases.
But that's something. I mean, when we get $1, we need to. We can't just spend it all in one area or another.
Right.
Try to, have a longer range plan of it.
And there will be a savings there, because once those new emissions come up, the trucks are gonna go up about $40,000 per unit.
Right.
So.
And they may not work very well, but
Yeah, I mean, with you on the job though, we're looking at, you'll be able to watch what projects are not gonna get completed in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Because there always are. And kind of, 2025's budget will.
No, and I have my work paper set up to where I can start putting placeholders 5 years out. It's just kind of starting to look at that. Especially because a lot of some of the engineering projects, they're planning years in advance, to get it in the tip. And we're gonna have a lot of stuff with the MPO, and those will be a little bit longer range planning, so we can make sure we're holding enough fund balance to cover that local match, because you always want to get matching money on a project. So overall, I'm showing, as you saw in the proposed budget, dipping of $1.8 million and where we're at. And again, we'll look at this again in a little more detail, January, probably in February. I'll come to the meeting. I just need a little time to get things wrapped up for year round, but.
The extra 2 FTEs that we're picking up over 2023, crew, basically is what it was.
Choosing up one, wasn't it?
One in the crew.
One of the crew,
31,
okay.
32.
I mean, you just, I mean, is that gonna help? For example, we're doing some of our patching now a little bit differently.
I think it's gonna help reduce, the more, this year we're very lucky, we had some seasonals return, and a lot of the years past, we have not had seasonals return, we have the cost of training a new individual. And then unfortunately, when they come in, yes, it's about 6 months of pay, but then we use a lot more material, equipment's damaged. You know, I think that probably adds up to close to an FTE's wage if you really start to calculate that.
What always costs more to train.
Yeah. And so, you know, it'd be nice to build the crew up to the point where we weren't having to bring in 7 seasonals every winter. Make sure that we were fine.
Well, there's one thing that like Brad, I mean, his intent was to try to keep people busy
Well, there's
full time.
There's plenty for us to do. I mean, we can start talking about ditching and, you know, we're so far behind on that. We can keep all the people busy that we get our hands on. So,
And one observation in here, roundabouts. The Garfield and Potter roundabout, very needed, I understand it, it's a very unique kind of an intersection. Going forward, at least for me, I can fund 3 intersections with lights for the price of 1 roundabout. So as we move forward with the issues at 3 Mile and Potter and a couple of those other ones where we talked about roundabouts, I think it would behoove us to look at lights versus roundabouts. That's $1.7 million. Now Garfield is very unique. The angles are really, so that's a whole different thing. But when it comes to straight up intersection,
Like for example, when we get to 3 Mile and Hammond, for example,
Yeah.
it's a lane through maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not gonna roundabout that at all.
and
In total waste.
the
I
roundabouts
love
work.
roundabouts.
They do work. They're good,
I love roundabouts.
but you can do 3 other intersections in the same.
I
place.
understand, but a light, somebody drunk or texting that runs a light still kills our kid driving in their car. But a roundabout, nobody runs that. I just think there's certain intersections with safety
Well,
ratings that we
I
need to look at.
basically said certain intersections. That makes
But
sense.
not just because it's a 4-way straight.
Because
intersection.
we were looking at a roundabout at 3 Mile and Potter too. Well,
Yeah.
that could be just as well served with a light as it could.
If we look at the safety
Somewhere else.
ratings, because I think it's not just the geography of the intersection, I think it's the propensity for people to run through at high speeds and kill people, where it's just not gonna happen with a roundabout there. So, you know, I'm a big fan, but I'm not a big fan of the price tag.
Stop signs at Powder and 3 Mile as far as I'm concerned. So, you know,
Well, that's the example I'm using because that was the
Yeah,
one that
no, I know.
had the grant. And so, other than that, any other questions?
So, yeah, just for clarification, so the total expenditure, the total budget, proposed budget for 2024 is 25,968. That, so looking at previous year's budget, we are spending significantly, about $11 million less.
Yeah, and you can see like if on that prior year change, if you go to construction projects, that's 8 million right there of that amount. And then,
Which
No, the-
sheet are you looking at?
on the first page, the summary.
That was because of carryover projects though, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
That was the increase.
Yeah, but, yes.
We did some projects that have been backed up this year that we had
Yeah,
intended
it got
to.
done in 23, but if you're looking at side by side from one year to the next.
Right.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to, I mean, my point is this is a much more conservative budget, right? Compared to previous years.
Well, so when I went through it, I kind of looked at, you know, labor. We sat down with Dan, we estimated, I think it was 175 hours of overtime for the crew position. They give us a little over 8,000 of overtime. It's probably on the higher end than I typically did. I think when I was here before, I'd do about 125 hours. As we maybe get more people in the fill position, maybe we can start lowering some of that. I always like to have, you know, if we have a bad winter, they gotta get out every week. I just wanna make sure, you know, we can cover the labor. You know, and if we come out under, great, it's just adds to your fund balance and we can, you know, revisit that in the following year as a budget amendment. And then I also kind of looked at some of the costs, so with like gravel, you know, we need materials to put down and do certain things, so I didn't use last year's, because last year's I think was an anomaly on certain things. I kind of went back and kind of looked at the history and was kind of put some amounts in there that I think we could use. Obviously, we'll probably dial that in a little better when I'm back here full time, but I wanted to at least get it at a pretty good point that I felt comfortable with. And typically, this is showing us spending down to $2.2 million, and I usually would try to hold that back, but I do know that there's unspent stuff in 23, then it all won't get spent in 24 as well. So, well, I think this is a good starting point.
All right. Move on. I make a motion that we accept the 2024 budget. Support. Can I have a roll call, please? Yes.
Hammond, Horn,
Yes.
Yes.
Lehman, absent and excused, and Underwood.
Yes.
Thanks, Bill.
Technically, well, we adopted the resolution there, correct? Is the best way to say that?
I think we probably.
Or do we need to do that? Let's do the
separate
resolution
motion.
too then.
Yeah.
You need a resolution for the motion.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Oh, we don't have to read out the language on it?
The motion is to adopt the
Yeah,
general
the resolution.
appropriations resolution.
There has been one change from the one in the packet. Instead of managing director, it's manager.
So the motion is to adopt resolution
Resolution
2023-1250. Okay, I'll support that motion.
And then can I have a roll call?
With the amendment. With the-
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman, absent and excused, Gilman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Why does it say finance manager in the absence of a chief administrative officer? What's a chief administrative?
The previous, and be it further resolved, if you look at the 1B,
Yeah.
the result is the managing director shall be and is hereby appointed as the chief
The
administrator.
manager. And if he's not doing it, then Phil.
Okay.
On to the consent calendar.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Requests by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as agenda items are automatically respected. The actions noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. So it should be 1, minutes, 2, payroll, 3, accounts payable, 4, financial reports, and 5, communications.
I am gonna make one note, on the special meeting, you were here, so the absent, we've already corrected it from absent excused to present.
Okay.
So that has been corrected
Yeah.
already.
I mean, I was here.
Rolling in real late.
Look, I guess.
I mean, you know,
Does anybody have anything they want pulled from the consent calendar?
I do, D5.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar without item P5.
Roll call, please.
Yeah, I supported.
I made the motion to approve the consent calendar without item
Oh.
P5.
And then Hyder did the second. 'Cause you're one more.
I did.
You said this one you wanted to pull. Yeah. I did.
Corn,
Yes.
Lehman, absent and excused, Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. Now we're going to do accounts payable, D5. What in the accounts payable that you want to bring up?
It's page 6 of 8. It's under OHM Advisors, invoice number 694.
Oh my gosh,
32. in the amount of $14,380.56. And under comments, it's listed as Boardman River Phase 2B Environmental Assessment. The time period is from 11/15/2023 to 12/15/2023. My understanding was that this board directed there were all those that work from OHM on this Boardman River Crossing project we put on hold and no additional charges to be incurred. And I want to know why we still have for the time period of November 15th to December 15th, an additional charge of $14,380
What meeting did we talk about?
in October.
Did we say no more funds accrued or no more expenses accrued? Was that?
Yes.
Well, what's the contract? Reed? Do we know?
And actually, on the manager's report, if you look at it, under under that those projects, it's all says on hold, on hold, on hold.
That's true.
But yeah, I just wanted.
Did we already issue those, that payment then? Is
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So these are payments for prior work?
So it's nothing that I have since,
It's the monthly payment. isn't it?
yes, I have not.
So
since
that's,
I've been managing,
so that,
I've not had any work done.
so, we would have to look at the dates. The dates you're seeing there is the invoice date that got entered into the system and the due date, the system automatically has 30 days. So the dates of service was probably for the month of October. And then they bill it in November. That's my,
So it's probably the work that they did prior to us asking them to put all the work on hold.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
I
guessing.
mean, yeah, if you could please confirm that, because I just don't want that to be keep incurring.
Did we do an official? Rather, maybe you can remember, did we do an official vote putting that back on hold / long-term
I don't
planning?
think we did.
I don't.
All right, after we do this, I think we should do that. So that's a.
Do we want to talk about it at the 11th meeting? OHM is going to be here and I know we have that 1.5 still holding out there that we.
Do we still pay them though through the, I don't know what the contract is.
Yeah, I just want an explanation of what we are doing. Yeah, I mean, because I don't want to keep pulling this out
So
from consent.
when they come to the 11th, they're actually going to ask for a new scope of work and then they want to do a new contract. Of any work that we're looking for in the future.
So between now and then, are we going to continue making monthly payments to them under the previous contract? Is that how the contract is set up?
You'll have to pull the contract.
I'm going to pull that. As far as any new work, no, I don't think we have any. Bill, are you aware of that we have a monthly just to have them on? Retainer?
I'm not involved in any of that.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any, but again, we should probably pull that.
And wouldn't there have to be a mutual out clause in there?
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't negotiate. I wasn't here even on the board when that contract was negotiated. So I just want to, I mean, if there's something contractually speaking that requires us to make certain payments, okay, well, then that's that. But
Yeah.
then I need that answer as to what that is, so that I know why we are.
It might not hurt for somebody to review that contract.
Okay.
All right, I'll with that, I'll move to accept the D5.
Moved and seconded, Kylie?
Lehman, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. Reports. All. I'm gonna start with Dan. I need to add to.
Well, that's fine. I think a couple things in manager's comments to speak about, but yeah.
Commissioner?
It's a lot of pressure here, man.
Yeah,
I know, I mean, I don't know.
I'll just do mine real quick then.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did text you the other night about the final amount for
Marion Road.
Marion Road, thank you. Are we close on that or? Because I really would like to know what it is, so
I can pull costs,
they want to try to get that closed out by the end of the year if they can. So
you want to sit down tomorrow and go through that? Okay.
I don't know.
It's my daughter's birthday, so I can't spend a whole lot of time.
Oh, I get that, yeah, that's,
I can knock that out.
so, Other than that, one of the things I did was go to the MTA luncheon. The airport was there.
I forgot
Quite
about the whole
interesting.
thing.
Listening to the zoning and all the stuff.
Ah.
Yeah.
Bob's great.
We didn't quite have time to get into how much additional traffic they're going to generate. They were more talking about the zoning around it, but I do want to have a continuing conversation with the airport about how much traffic they expect to generate as they get ready to build their second terminal.
Yeah. I mean, they also, obviously have pretty great concerns about the redirect of traffic for the Grandview Parkway project, and then Town Line Road comes up all the time. Yeah, those are the
So
ones.
you're our liaison, so you
Yes.
know we really want to keep talking about. One of the
So,
things that Dan and I have discussed is when the Traverse City project's done, can MDOT help us expand South Airport?
And I did have a conversation with them about that,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, they cannot.
yeah.
It
It's,
should have, they said we're 3 years too late to the table.
Yeah.
That should have
They
been
needed to start getting on that.
previous, they
They were
said
talking
there's
about.
no going back these.
Okay.
and there's a lot of.
As long as they're willing to deal with that in the
Like,
future.
It was a firm no.
On which
Okay.
project are we talking about?
Well, previous management should have moved to have MDOT help us widen
Preparate for charter.
South Airport.
Oh, because of the, we talked about
So,
that, yeah.
because the section from just to the east of the airport, where it goes down to 3 lanes and then goes down to 2 lanes.
Yeah.
Needs to be 5 lanes.
Right.
And there's room,
And there are
Ish.
gonna be some
but
issues, but
once you have the FAA
But-
involved and, it's a no. It's a hard no. We talked about it.
just as long as MDOT knows the next time they need a favor,
It's a hard.
if I'm on the board,
They spent a lot of money in preparation in other areas. I mean, you take a look at a couple $100,000 they spent on signal work on railroad.
Yeah, yeah.
A signal like.
Well, the airport is right now currently undergoing a terminal expansion that they expect to have happen. And then, of course, terminals are airports on the whole are about 20 to 25 years. So the intention is, of course, to build next to the current terminal, and when that's open, all operations will move into the new terminal. And then I'm not sure on the old terminal what will happen. But they're moving forward fairly aggressively with this terminal expansion right now.
This is all the space behind the Costco or something, is that?
It's actually next to the current terminal
Yeah.
right now. Yeah,
to the east.
it's like right behind the Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see some things going on which don't have to do with that, but right now, the current building, they are expanding and there will be a few more gates.
Oh.
So there is an expansion to the current airport. It will carry it through to its alleged timeline that they were wanting to get out of it, and then they will move next door when the new terminal is finished, which will be a little bit more capable of what they anticipate the traffic increases to be. But we're never gonna be an international airport, we're never gonna have some of those high density things. It's a never, according to Kevin Klein. So there is nowhere in their strategic planning for that to happen. So there's some limitations on things with the FAA. But
Can you imagine
Well,
that double decker airplanes coming?
Oh my God.
No, it's on the,
With the
it's on the
roofs.
space for that.
Emirates flies in, no.
Dan, can you express to MDOT how displeased the chairman is that they're unwilling to talk to us about that, when they're unwilling to help us on any east-west corridor? So when there's eventually gridlock, I'm going to absolutely blame MDOT for the problem,
Did speak
period.
about the corridor as well. So
Yeah.
Next time I do have a meeting, I will.
Bob is a real.
If they want to
great
actually help
resource.
transportation, get off your ass and help us. Don't just sit there and go, oh, so.
No, it's a frustrating thing, but I think Bob is a really good resource. He's so full of knowledge and understands so much about the FAA and the things. I mean, obviously he's an engineer, but I mean, he's got really that great background for that. But we do need to talk about expanding South Airport Road in that area. There's no doubt about that. There's obviously a current housing complex that's in there. There's another housing complex approved and broken ground there. And then we've got another one coming out on Hammond, which will clearly use Town Line and South Airport. So there's a lot of high density projects going into that particular corridor. And I'm assuming a hotel is going into
I
the
would assume.
property
Gonna get
next to the
full.
Costco as well.
Any other commissioners' comments? I'm gonna.
Not on that.
I'll go off the.
The discussions after, is if
Okay.
that's where we're at with discussion.
Yeah, we're actually, we're kind of moved it.
Are we on to H?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so always before Christmas, I usually come up with some kind of weird thing to entertain people with. And this year, I made some really cool custom,
Chocolates?
Is it chocolate?
yeah, they're very heavy for chocolates. Do
Yeah, I
not
was
bite-
gonna say.
do not bite
You gave us old.
Real fast into that. And then, and I got a couple for for our employees.
Oh, these are nice. Do
And,
not bring these on your flight though.
Yeah, these are not for airport, but,
This is
a
nice.
couple
I
for our-
like this.
I'll have to get Larry one, later there, and then I have one for the commissioner, of course.
Oh, awesome.
Here we go. All right, actually, I do have one here, so.
I did not bring knives for everybody.
That's pretty cool, man.
Thing that I didn't know.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah, burn those off today. So Merry Christmas and all that.
Thank you. No, I will absolutely. use
Pretty
it.
cool. Should give everybody a case of Olmecs too. You know, well, see, the thing is though, it is a laser, and if I engrave the brass and the bullets, you know, there's always a cat nearby.
That's true.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much, Jason. Wonderful.
Any other commissioner discussion comments?
Hey, you got stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah, just, I don't want to make everybody aware, there was, an accident yesterday involving one of our trucks. Everybody is okay. You're not gonna believe it, but it was Garfield and Potter. With a Ford truck. It was one of our chip trucks, full-size one. Our driver did an awesome job. The lady had passed Potter and decided to do a U-turn and came to a complete stop. So our truck came up, he locked up the brakes as he saw her sideways, he saw young children right there, and he made the hard decision that he went for the guardrail.
You ditched it, good.
He used the guardrail to slow the truck down, so he barely touched the van. So luckily our driver's all right, they're all right, everything's great. Tim did a great job, he's already got the truck back out on the road, and we'll be out there doing some guard work, so.
They were doing the U-turn in the road.
They blew past,
They
and
they missed the road.
blew the road and came to a complete stop.
So like roundabouts help with that. I just want you to know that.
Law enforcement.
Thank you, thank you.
So, law enforcement, commended our driver, said he does not know how he managed to stop that vehicle in such a short period of time. He was very impressed. Spoke very highly of our driver, so, you know,
Good braking systems, our equipment's up to snuff.
I'd say that I can tell you have a very good shop.
How much?
170 feet.
And how much does the vehicle weigh?
It's a large truck.
Yeah, this
Oh, the
is
big ones.
one of our dump trucks with a blade and a front plow, so very heavy, about 62,000 pounds.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I wanted that. You've probably seen a few message boards out and about, says, drive slow and ice and snow. We're moving those around to different locations. So hopefully it's being well received and everybody's seeing that out there. Let's see here. Wanted to mention, we invited her. People are probably familiar with her. She does the, consulting and media stuff for the county, Susan Wilcock Wilson. So we're looking at having a meeting with her next week. She was unfortunately out of town tonight. I wanted to bring her in and have her kind of talk with everybody. So we're hoping to use her to put some stuff out.
She does the airport too. Like they have, I think, a really great marketing for the airport and that's her.
So yeah, hopefully she can do some PR work for us. Forward. We've got the snow go out there. Got some lights on there, so very excited. It's what I want to do for several years. Everybody has a great holiday season.
Thank you. You too.
I was on the radio last week and talked about not hitting our plow drivers and things like that. But we did a little bit of a set about that.
Whose show were you on?
I was on Vic and I mentioned that Larry Lacrosse is going to be the superintendent, and Mickey's like, is it Larry from high school? I'm like, yes, it's Larry. So everybody was very excited about that. We talked about Dan and some of the changes, but mostly talked about those green lights, the yellow lights. Please don't hit a plow truck, because it's not gonna be good for you.
So one more reason that, I'm just circling back on something, we all got the email from Gail. Or was it from Gail? Yeah, I think it's from Gail. Our self-insurance pool. Legislation, which changes the wording in our liability situation a little differently. It basically, according to the attorneys for the self-insurance pool, the change would change, what's the word that we're looking for? Completely. Yeah, it's liability, but I mean, it's fault. I mean, it's where we can't be sued. It's
Immunity?
yeah, we have a certain degree of immunity now. Okay, and we would have to, for anybody in our crews to be liable at all right now, they would have to be, period, and statement, completely responsible for screwing up. I mean, it would have to be, but the way that the language, I mean, that's the way the language reads now. They would have to be like 100%. It is their fault. They screwed up. They made a bad move, and they should have known better. And that's kind of how it works now. The language changes it to they could be at fault partially, essentially. I mean, that's how the attorney's reading it. If you contribute to the fault, then they could be sued in a situation where there are damages. And it doesn't matter how much we could be included. And that's the problem. Whereas right now, we can be, the judge can say, okay, well, there's, you have this blanket immunity. Your drivers have this blanket immunity, and with the change in the language, it's no longer that way. It's no longer that way. We're gonna have to stick around. We're gonna wind up paying.
Legislatively change that?
Not yet. So get your email. It's it changes 6:30, I think it is. So it is worth looking at. In fact, I mean, I probably would have been better off pulling it up here, being a little more direct. But I've always kind of been, if you screw up, you pay for it. I don't care if you're government or this or that. But at the same time, we could be considered, if we make a decision,
Right.
it could actually carry back to us, and we can be considered at fault enough to be included in the lawsuit. If we make a decision that we have a road and somebody on the road drives down the road and gets killed, it may or have nothing to do with us, but because we made the decision to build a road, or we made the decision to pave a road, or we fixed the road so that people could drive on it, or we cleared the road so they could drive on it. I mean, it really opens the door. It's a Pandora's box.
So there is a certain level of immunity for the travel portion of the road. I'm not sure which statute you're referring to, because there was, I don't know unless there's a separate statute that applies specifically just to road commission drivers, but there has traditionally been no governmental immunity for motor vehicle accidents owned by governmental agencies. So the governmental immunity never extended to motor vehicles. There were exceptions to governmental immunity for motor vehicle accidents.
Read the opinion on this.
Yeah, so I don't know
It's
which-
worth looking at, and it has the language in there. You can take a look at the language.
The AG.
No, this is not an AG decision. This is legislative. This is a legislative proposal.
Can you forward that to me when you get a
Yes,
chance?
yeah. We should have all got it.
I didn't.
Was it today?
I didn't get that.
I didn't read my emails today.
Yeah, today or yesterday.
Yeah, you know.
It wouldn't extend personal liability to our drivers.
Yes, yes, that's,
But we don't want a driver losing his house.
Is that gonna
because,
include
yeah,
the law
There's
enforcement?
gotta be a way to.
yeah.
Is that gonna include law enforcement? Because they have an exemption too. They have
Maybe
a
you should
liability.
send it to this one.
Yeah, well,
I will forward it on.
That is what the trial. Is it a community with our lights on, so considered a moving operation?
This changes it.
It's, yeah, I think that's probably what we're looking at.
Yeah, you got it from Gail. Gail sent it to you too, didn't she?
I didn't get a chance to really through, but I did get it.
Is that all government?
I need to read the email more thoroughly for one.
I mean, you certainly can't do it to a paramedic driving an ambulance with lights on to a.
You can, when the trial lawyers.
It's not as later. I'll have to find it. So.
If we just didn't have lawyers, like.
Yeah. All lawyers stink except ours.
Except
So our lawyers.
You can say that about a lot of professions that I can think of.
I am
won't say
right,
it. I
I'm
won't
in
say
there.
it because some people have been, are in that profession,
I am
so,
right there.
yeah.
So we are,
Public
public comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have some?
You poor people having to.
I was waiting all the way to. Hi, Maura Sanders, 20202 Center Road, Peninsula Township. I was gonna talk earlier, but I'm glad I waited to hear the Bluff Road discussion. I'm a Peninsula Township trustee. So I'm good.
Yes.
I am.
Hi.
So I'm planning on showing up to as many meetings as possible with you guys, and also I'd love to be on the committee for Bluff Road. I know you got a couple of the local guys that live right there on it, but I already talked to the town board and being a representative from the township.
The guy that was our representative, I'm sorry, his name's escaping me. I believe he may have stepped down from your board. Is he still on your board?
Skursky or Clear?
He wasn't on the board.
No.
Skursky is on par.
No.
Anyways, yeah, I didn't know if somebody, I thought you had a trustee step down.
Warren Wall,
No.
he
that
was the
wasn't
only
him.
one, so, yeah,
Okay.
so I'll be
Yeah.
happy
So
to,
just talk to Isaiah.
yeah, I just talked to Isaiah, yeah, and, yeah, I'll
How
step in.
many
and-
people are on your township board?
7. So if you guys ever need anything out of the Peninsula Township side, just feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
And how are you?
Good. I was actually napping peacefully until this discussion.
Exciting crew up here.
Yeah, about the, I rose from my slumber when we started talking about road budget. Commissioner Kazim's great question about new projects in 2024. I've missed some meetings, but I'm just asking the question, and it didn't seem like there was even a list out there yet. I might be off what I heard, but I think obviously looks like there's a little bit of a budget crunch, and but we shouldn't give up on road projects if there's any way. 8 million less, I think, this year. Second part of that question is a couple of years ago, and that, by the way, in Mayfield Township, I don't think I said who I am. There was this through local program that had started, and essentially it converted 120 miles of primary road or local roads to be considered as primary. It was a great program that all the townships really liked. And I guess my question on that would be, and of course, if a road is to rebuild is 500,000, doing some quick guerrilla math, that's a $60 million liability, plus or minus the 50% that the townships, the county did anyway. But let's just say over a long term, that's a $30 million liability that was transferred from townships, so to say, to the road commission, because primary roads are funded by the road commission. So I'm wondering if that program is alive, if some of those through locals are included in upcoming budgets, or is that a dead program?
You mean to be converted into primaries? I don't.
Well,
No, no, it was part of the asset management plan.
Oh.
And trying to use millage funds for.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
I don't have that.
Well,
I mean, it's a big thing for towns. I understand, but, and so we started planning around that, but if that program, that part of it goes back up in smoke, it's a big thing for townships, part of the funding part of it. So.
I don't know. I know it's still comment, but it had to do with if we could maintain our good to fair
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was, we had to reach certain level, a certain percentage.
Reach down and get the next
Yeah.
road.
I thought we
Reach down
took
and get the next
over
road.
additional 120 miles
Well, it was
of
the-
local
Yeah,
roads,
it
right?
wasn't right
Because-
away though, it was a sneak-in thing.
Okay, that's not.
We'll have to, we'll have to.
Well,
do some
I'm
work.
pretty sure that is a policy that was accepted.
Yeah,
That we.
but was it all at once or was it as,
No, what we're gonna do is take all the through locals and add them to our asset management plan, but we need 80 to
Right.
90% of our primaries to be good.
Yeah.
That was it. That's right.
Yeah.
We're not turning them into primaries.
No,
That's
no.
That's how I was kind of confused. at the-
Treat it as.
Yeah.
so, and are we at that
Well,
level?
I can check with staff on it, but I guess
I'm
I'm.
gonna go through it,
curious.
but I think we're in the 80s for sure.
The 80s?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
as we get to that level, that's when we start about
That's-
starting to
yeah,
do
we're moving
more
to that.
maintenance on the other ones.
Where are we at that level?
And
We're in our
we're
80s.
getting there. We gotta look at it for sure, but we are starting to do a lot more, traffic counts on those local throughs and kind of preparing and adding it to that, asset management plan for sure. And working with the townships as well, trying to get their input for, their asset management plans, their township asset.
So as a numbers thing, my point is, it's a pretty big thing, a good program, obviously from the township perspective.
Yeah.
And I stated it as a transfer of money. Well, when it really comes down to it, from my point of view, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Especially little townships. So.
Well, I want to say this.
Go ahead.
It just, you've gotten involved and the last couple of years, you've really pushed forward. We've gotten a lot of things done in Mayfield.
Yeah,
very
good.
Because,
Yeah.
frankly, because you stepped up to the plate for your township. And you got some of the participation money advanced up and just made some things happen. You guys really put some investment into your roads.
Yeah, no, we kind of looked at it as a new start. And that was a big part of it, and that's why I bring it up tonight. Was on that local through destination.
So it's still policy. And once the mechanism hits, we'll continue to do that.
And then talked to Jim 4 weeks ago now probably, but I think he said Aaron came out in pretty good shape, by the way, cost wise, but I wasn't at our last township.
I was at the last township meeting and Dean was pushing me for a final bill.
Wow.
$424,066.
424?
Yeah. That's what it came.
That's real good.
So,
Yeah, very good. So, all right, thank you.
This guy has the numbers right in front of him. He pulls it right out.
Welcome back.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
I saw us. Oh, one last thing, by the way, I am on the Bluff Road Committee too. and
That's true.
Anxiously awaiting the next meeting.
Yes.
So, all right.
I saw some activity down there on South Ray Road this week, so we finally made it down.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
know
you.
you're gonna do the Bluff Road?
I was thinking January,
Okay.
because, I mean, most meetings and stuff aren't really
Yeah.
going
Oh,
on.
yeah, there's not enough time.
So I'm thinking January, and, well, Dan, you can coordinate whatever staff you're interested in having there. I think Jennifer Hodges, or Graham, I'm sorry, Jennifer Graham, from, the Peninsula is helpful to have there as well. And then I guess you guys can talk to Isaiah. But I know that I can, speak for him that he also we want to move forward on that. And then, like I said, if we have to go to Lansing or something. But I think we have a really unusual project there because of the watershed and the bluff and I just think there's a lot of moving parts that could bring in a lot of special, I hate to say special interest groups, but when they're helpful, and maybe that would be good. So, but until then, I will continue bringing it up at every meeting. Everybody loves that.
Same as I would continue bringing up Straight Road and North Long.
100% we will.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna keep getting brought up. One comment I would, while we're talking about committee meetings, I would like to schedule towards the beginning of the next year, a policy committee meeting. We started doing some work, or what was it, summer and everything, and on a couple of policies, bid policy and county and vehicle use policy.
The vehicle use policy is
And
important.
then nothing. So we want to resume work on that, those two policies, and also the cell phone reimbursement policy
okay.
was the third one that we wanted to work on. So if you could, like, in January or something, send out some dates to Lisa and I, and so that we can start working, and because I'm sure you guys will probably have to, Dan, you probably will have to catch up with what the discussions are, because the people who are involved with it are not happy with the organization.
Is there a particular day of the month that works well? One of the
think
nice things
Fridays
at
work.
Ada is they have standing.
Yeah,
meetings
Fridays
with the
work
board.
best for me, to be honest
Set
with you.
something up that's-
And I know you are typically off on Friday.
It used to be,
Oh, that changed for you. I could do, yeah.
but
so-
like I'm flexible unless if I have a standing commitment with a developer or something,
Right.
somebody, we're paying a lot of money to be there, so I don't want to miss.
Or
any.
on missions, so, but other than that, yeah. So, yeah, if you could just send out some dates and then we can figure out, okay, and that's a good idea. If we can actually have some continuity
Yeah.
in those meetings.
That way
We
it's
can
always
start
on the
looking-
calendar.
Yeah.
And then if something comes up, you can cancel. it.
Because those discussions, we're not gonna make those, finalize any decisions on any one policy in one meeting, so.
No.
Yeah, so it
No.
probably does behoove us to have some continuity in those meetings, so, yeah.
I don't know if this is a policy discussion or not, but one thing moving forward, I really want to look at special assessment districts. Because special assessment districts are one of the things that touches our residents the most. It only happens to the ones that get involved to get their road fixed, but for them, it's really important, and it's money out of their pocket and money on their property taxes. And it's a really big deal. And when the process is convoluted and frustrating and dragged out, and I'm not putting any blame on anybody. I'm just saying maybe we could look at the process as a whole to make it more pleasant. So it's already unpleasant to have your tax bill go up and have a crap road in front of your house. But the process shouldn't be. We should all work together. And again, I'm going to remind everybody what an important vehicle the special assessment district is to bring us an asset for pennies on the dollar for the road commission. We're getting projects redone, and it's critical for us to move forward to get our roads completed, but especially for people that live in subdivisions and maybe not these through roads, but they're so important to the people that live on them. And it's just consistently the people that approach me in the public are frustrated with the road commission about the special assessment district process. And I think the townships are as well. And I would love to see us come up with maybe taking a really good look at identifying what the hangups are. Maybe it's things we can't do anything about.
I'll lob it out there. If they give us 3 mills, we could take them over.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So let's put that on the agenda. I don't know if there's
Would
a
that be
policy.
is it a policy? is
Yeah,
what
so
I'm
that's-
saying.
Well, since you're about SADs, and speaking with Phil, I've gotten the education in here. You said down state, there is no such thing, right? It's 100%.
Yeah, down where in Monroe County, the SADs paid 100% of engineering, overhead.
I think it's great, the county, we offer this.
Yeah.
So maybe when we did this, we didn't quite get all the language quite correct, is what I'm hearing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've asked about that too, so I don't know if it's a policy, a procedure. So let's look at that and let's put that on the list too. So that's 4 items that we can start tackling before we get too ambitious.
And some of it's at the township educating, because some
Yeah.
townships are better than others
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
explaining the process.
The
because
best
they've been
way
through
to
it.
reach people, these are the people that are paying for us to do what we do and wanting to know how their dollars are used and spent. And when they finally step forward and go through the process to do something, and then it's just a complete circus for them, that's frustrating and impacts people.
There have to be a lot of, see, the thing is, I think some of the frustrations they're probably having is the stuff that's built in to protect the guy who doesn't want to pay it. I mean, because there's always gonna be a few people who just, I can't afford that.
Well, we'll
And then-
objectively look at the road,
Yeah.
roadblocks,
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah.
And maybe see if we can help make it a smoother process.
And the increased traffic, we have not increased. Doesn't month, I mean.
I know, Lansing bureaucrat, I know, but I still think we can look at, even if we identify all these roadblocks and we can't do anything about them, maybe we can all be friends and commiserate together about it.
You understand.
Is there any other projects, I told you about Paradise, so is there any other projects that you guys know of from your townships that are hanging out there that they want? Because poor Dan, I text him when I'm at meetings and they ask me questions, and I tell him
Yeah.
right away.
Blue Star and, I was in Blue Star and Jefferson.
I mean, we already got, I think we all got that information regarding Gray and Cedar Run. Not sure that, and I told our commissioners that, I mean, obviously, we have talked about that area, particularly because of the future plan developments that are
There's a
going
lot of
there.
stuff there now
That's
that
gonna
wasn't
be,
there 2 years ago.
and that was a discussion at our very first strategy session where we talked about, and that's the other thing we need to work on, while we're adding to your list, is we talked about the potential of coming up with some sort of a master agreement with developers moving forward to address right-of-way acquisition towards the beginning planning phase of the project. So let's start working on that too. My point being that we can't just keep having strategy sessions and not put what we are learning from that into actual action and plans. So, because otherwise they're just everyone's waste of time. So we have enough data from which we can start working on. We had a very good discussion and some good ideas that come up. Let's start towards the process of actually putting some of those plans into the implementation phase or planning phase, or implementation phase, rather than just kind of like taking that and putting it on some drive and shoving it.
When we have residents that say we want to do these projects or whatever, we should have a process to send them to so-and-so, or this is the stuff that you do.
The checklist. All right, is there anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. So.